I think that we all kind of expected, I said we all as a kind of a broad term, Austin Ryder to come back, right? I think that's kind of what the tone was of Chiefs Kingdom was okay, Austin Ryder will come back. That'll be the center to play next year. Did it surprise you the Chiefs wouldn't sign another center? I know it kind of surprised me a little bit.
Yeah, it did, and it makes me think that Ryder maybe wanted a long-term deal. That's the only thing I could think about. And you brought up before we hopped on the podcast, maybe the Chiefs are still going to bring Austin Ryder back. Like it doesn't completely the thing I like about the Blythe signing. It doesn't rule anything out. It doesn't rule out a round one center. It doesn't rule out trading back, picking up another pick, getting a round two center. It doesn't rule out round 3, 4, 5. It doesn't rule out taking a late round center on day 3 of the draft. It doesn't rule out bringing back Austin Ryder or adding more depth to the interior of the offensive line. And you also brought up how Blythe has that guard versatility. Maybe he's just going to be a depth piece, and I'll let you make your player comparison, like the vibes you got from that. But that was a really good point.
Yeah, I get real big Dan Kilgore vibes from this, right? A guy that can play guard and center. I mean, I think he played 31 straight games at right guard before he went to center last season and played all 16 games at guard. And the contract money too, when you look at it, 990,000 guaranteed, 760,000 in playtime slash team performance incentives. That's not starting center money. So when
Mm-mm.
I look at that, I think, wait a second, there's something else going on here. That might be a little tinfoil thinking. I know we kind of talked about that on yesterday's podcast too. That might be conspiracy theory that, okay, maybe Austin Ryder is going to come back and they're just signing, Blythe here for some extra reinforcements on the offensive line. Yeah, you saw the game of attrition really hit the Chiefs offensive line really hard. So are they preparing for that? Are they gearing up by getting Blythe, who could be a very solid center? And right, like you said, doesn't shut any doors in terms of free agency, doesn't shut any doors in terms of the draft. I think that this signing is a really good one. Now, he's not better than Austin Ryder. He's not.
Mm-hmm.
People are going to try to tell you that because for some reason people hate Austin Ryder. That's not true. Like he's not his PFF grade is like point 0.6 points better than Austin Ryder. Austin Ryder is a much better pass blocker than Blythe is, which let's be honest, guys, that's the only thing that matters. Um, the pass blocking is important in this Chiefs offense because you have Patrick Mahomes who likes to pass the ball. So if you got to protect Patrick Mahomes, and as you mentioned, I think he allowed 4 sacks last season. Austin Ryder didn't allow any sacks, only allowed 11 pressures from Austin Ryder, I believe, and 31 I think came from Austin Blythe. So there is a discrepancy there, and I know that pressures are kind of a subjective stat. Sacks aren't. Sacks aren't a subjective stat; those actually happen. So it's really, it, I do like the signing. I think that's what I'm getting at. Is I like the signing for what the contract is and what Blythe could be. Right? I don't think that. Yes, he could start, and that wouldn't hurt me. The Chiefs could go out and draft a center, as you mentioned, Jordan, and I'd be okay. I would say, okay, that's fine, that's fine. The Chiefs could also bring back Austin Ryder, and he could be a depth piece with this contract, and I would be 100% fine with it. There's just so many ways the Chiefs can go now, I think.
Yeah. I think it lines up as two things. One, it lines up as a lateral move. I think that watching clips and reading articles from people who have been reviewing Blythe's film, I think the huge drop off in pass blocking is overstated. Now, is he as good of a pass blocker as Austin Ryder? I don't think so, but that drop off might not be quite that bad. Now, is he an improvement in run blocking? I think is significant one, yes, which that's huge considering the Chiefs at the goal line were basically forced to throw the ball because they couldn't run it in. They couldn't get short yardage stuff, third and short stuff like that. So that's nice. It also, I think, lines up for potentially, I think it was Connor Christopherson who tweeted this out. Man, Landon Dickerson, if the Chiefs got him at 31 or even traded back into the second round for him, he's probably not going to be 100% by the time the season starts. Even if he is, the Chiefs wouldn't have to rush him. They could sit him for most of, if not all of the 2021 2022 season behind Blythe. They could let him take over at the center position. Then that pops up with free agency. The Chiefs wouldn't need a center next offseason. They wouldn't need to draft one next offseason. They would have some guys who could be depth. They could make another Austin Blythe type signing a year from now for $900,000 or whatever it is, and he could be their backup center. So I think that it can't hurt. And that's kind of the Jaron Reed thing as well.
Yeah.
It just can't hurt. None of these signings, Dan Sorensen, it can't hurt. The Chiefs are exercising. I think I made this analogy on Twitter like a couple weeks ago. The Chiefs kind of shanked their tee shot into the woods, and they're kind of exercising some damage control now and trying to save par. And I think they're doing a good job at it. There's still a lot of work to do for the rest of the offseason and into the draft, but the Chiefs are putting themselves in a much better position than they were a few weeks ago.
The Chiefs for sure had a shot lined up at the pin, right? And then they said, all right, they hit it in the water, dog leg left with a little pond
Yeah.
in between, hit it into the water, and they said, okay, now we just got to lay up. That's essentially
Mhm.
what's happening right now. The Chiefs are laying up. You do want to see them upgrade in free agency, right? The whole mindset in free agency is you improve in free agency, build depth in the draft. It's not really how it's shaping up right now. I do think that they improved at guard. Joe Thuney is a good guard signing. I think that that was a good signing for the Chiefs. But as we mentioned when they signed Joe Thuney, that can't be the only thing they do.